Good afternoon, everybody. And on the next slide, I hope I've accommodated the mother tongue of all people in this hall. If I haven't, put it on a piece of paper and I'll add to my next presentation. Thank you to everybody. If I've left out any names, I apologize. Okay? So, sorry if I've left out any of the important names. I hope I haven't. Then, hearty welcome to our presenters, those that have presented, and of course, the VIPs, all our other attendees. Thank you. I don't want to leave out the name of the person that translated the presentation and the person that's actually doing the translation. Working behind the scenes, thank you so much for your work. There's a brief overview of my presentation. Fasten your seat belts. I'm going to go through this very quickly. First, I'll deal with the theory, and then I'll deal with the practical aspects. So let's deal with the theory first. I was into the storied approach. I've been into the storied approach for ages. These two books, two of my teenage novel books that I wrote many, many years ago. So the storied approach, I truly and really love. That's part of who I am. I love writing, and I love writing novel stuff. So just by way of a general orientation, ladies and gentlemen, change is the new constant. I think you all agree that major technological advances, and you've all heard the term fourth industrial revolution before. Now, it's a kind of a misnomer. It's a term that I think is used far too often in the wrong context, but that's a story for a different day. This kind of phenomenon I see on a daily basis. This kind of phenomenon too. You know exactly what I'm talking about. So this is actually a very, very serious matter, I think. The feelings of insecurity that I allude to there on the slide, many people, even you and I, often feel insecure. What is happening? We're losing control. Some people argue that 1 billion people will actually lose their jobs. Some people say that it makes no sense to become an accountant or a lawyer, and if you go to YouTube and you watch the clips, it seems as if everybody will be out of work soon. But that's actually not so true. I think I can safely say that your job and my job, it will be a very difficult task to put us out of our jobs. Robots are not going to take over our place any day soon. So, in many contexts, and I mean many, there's evidence that maturity, the notion of climbing the ladder is disappearing. Please note, this is especially the case in post-industrial contexts. Where I come from, there are pockets of post-industrial areas. But the vast majority of Africa, there we still climb the career ladder. It's very important to understand that concept. Economies differ. I don't need to talk you through that. Global North, by and large, post-industrial, and where I come from at least, underdeveloped, developing countries. So again, one size has never fitted all. And it no longer fits all. Irrespective of the economy, I'm going to group work 4.5 and 5.0 together, and even 6.0. Disrupting employment, disrupting virtually everything, and a shortage of suitably trained people. And these things have become commonplace. Now, there are two scenarios. You're aware of those two scenarios. Some people say that the dystopian possibility, we will eventually be replaced by the robots and face extinction because the robots might one day decide to take over our jobs. And if I look at what my laptop did yesterday evening, it stopped working altogether, I think there might very well be some truth in this statement. Are we creating our own Frankenstein? I don't know, sometimes it does look like that, doesn't it? But others say robot utopia might eventuate. And in such a scenario, boring, repetitive work will be rooted out, weeded out, and we'll have all the time to do meaningful, purposeful work. What do you think? I don't know. I hope the second scenario will eventuate, but I don't know. What I do know is, ladies and gentlemen, some of you have liked everything the speaker said, the presenters. Some of you did not, and the majority of you, to an extent, liked certain things. What we want to see is what we will see. What we want to believe is what we will believe. If on any given day you go out into the streets and you're bent on seeing red cars, you'll go home tonight having seen many red cars. If you want to see yellow cars, you'll go home tonight having seen yellow cars. So we see what we want to see. There's a very clear physiological explanation for that. However, during the fifth wave in career counselling, we're on the verge of the fifth wave. The focus will be, you can put your money on that. All the speakers, Ronald, Maree, and a colleague from Greece, referred to this phenomenon. You can take my word for this one. Meaning, life purpose, hope, counselling. And added to that, like Ronald said, connectivity. If there is no passion, if there is no hope, we are in bigger trouble than we were bargaining for. Goals of my presentation, I think you should read that lovely quote on the screen. The future rests on our ability, all of the speakers, all of them, alluded to the importance of innovating in a contextually appropriate manner. Develop new models, etc., to help people cope with the new organization of work, because predictability is falling by the wayside. Stability, order, you know what I'm talking about. These things are disappearing. So we need to design ourselves and construct our careers, and I'll get to that notion now. Now, many people have criticized me severely for even daring to say this, but I will never budge. We need an approach that will work for all people. And that is why I'm so keen on talking about the matters of indigenizing and contextualizing in conjunction with implementing stuff. So on an individual level, there you see the words on the screen. It has to work for an average person, a bright person, a person with a disability, a beggar in the streets of Montreal. But it also has to work in groups. Ladies and gentlemen, where I come from, on a weekly basis, I get called on to administer career counselling given one day to 400 people. So I cannot work individually. My program works like this. 5 days of the week I'm a professor at a university. Saturdays I do pro bono work, no pay for that, from the goodness of my heart, individual people in informal settlements, migrants, etc. Sundays I add to my income by doing private work. But during the week I work with masses of people. There you see an example. I know it's a long and winding road, but unless we devise models that will work for everybody, I think we're in trouble. So, ladies and gentlemen, the kind of requests that I often receive, mostly receive for career counselling. Number one, people ask me to involve a large group. Embedded in such a request would be test and tell. And I'm given 4 or 6 hours. I don't have any choice. I have to use my tests. In certain instances, people say integrative career counselling, stories and scores, which I'll get to. Private schools, people that have money, where time and costs are not issues. Thirdly, let me just go back, individual or small group assessment. Oftentimes one-on-one counseling or 3 people in a group, and there again, money and time are not issues. So there are the research questions. I was asked to ask the question, what strategies are there for self and career construction, especially something that works across cultures and contexts? Let me just tell you why I make a distinction between self and career. Because career construction, per definition, in my opinion, includes self-construction. However, out of respect for Jean Bouchard and Mark Savickas, I decided to group the 2 terms together. So what you need from me, my brief was to come up with certain practical recommendations, which is what I'm hoping to do today. So just a brief overview, self-construction, there you see it. Somebody asked me a question during break, and that's what you have there, and it's in your notes. You don't need to write anything down. These things really are in your notes. So people have to be, like Maree said, proactive agents that strive to achieve self-organization, to retain a sense of orderliness and continuity in their lives. Actualized through construction of the self. Somewhat of a difference between constructing yourself and constructing your career. I prefer to group the 2 together though. Career construction, the 3 terms that you need to remember, and I think the majority of you are familiar. Number 1, individual differences, and now you need to get your timelines right. Beginning of the previous century, when hundreds of thousands of jobs became available, we were called on to devise tests, test people and tell people, you're a plumber, you're a fitter and turner, you're a this, that and the other. Then over time, the individual development model, and I'm going to talk about that in a moment, developed. And then the third model, psychodynamic motivation, the storied approach, the narrative approach. And those 3 we group together mostly. Now, I love that quote. McAdams that says we need to begin to recognize the integrated whole of the self as a story, of the story itself. And I love the next there in pink. A guide to people's life past, present and future. So the big thing here is construct a bridge between the past, the present and the future. Keep that theme in mind. I'm going to revert to that again now. There's the conceptual framework of CCT and the terms that I want you to take home with you. Tell your story, narrate it. Autobiographicity, draw on that story. As you face transitions, you have to become adaptable, and that's a term that you all are aware of. You have to have the intention, like Ronald said, you have to have passion. You need to be willing to make a change, and then obviously action, action, action. And you're going to hear me say those words repeatedly. People's career self-identity is the link between them and the contexts. So your sense of career identity, and again I'm going to quote from Ronald's speech this morning. At the age of 7 already, and I couldn't agree more, people start filtering. The process of filtering begins. I don't want to become, for instance, an engineer. I'd rather work with humans, or the other with people in a personal capacity, or the other way around. So career construction counseling, only look at the pink there. Actively master what you've passively suffered, and I'm sure you know the term. And ladies and gentlemen, while I'm talking with you, I want you to spare a minute. What was the thing that hurt you most in life? Your biggest pain or your biggest challenge? Think about it. Because I'm inclined to think that if we can identify your initial pain, we might very well help you to find a job that will help you not only be happy and successful, but also make staggering social contributions. And also note the following. People often say you're becoming a psychologist because you're dealing with certain problems that you couldn't face yourself. They couldn't be more right. Of course, we as psychologists help others, and in healing others, we're actually healing ourselves. Take that home with you forever. Every time I help a person with poverty, a person with sadness, I'm actually also helping myself. That is fundamentally important. Every counselor should understand that. Let's put CC2 into practice. First of all, ladies and gentlemen, I need to put my cards on the table. Promotes narrative intervention, etc. Please note the blue there. Career construction, self-construction. The approach works very, very well because it's so empowering. Even people that come up with experiences that were painful, agonizing, upsetting, this technique still works well because if you do your work properly, your clients will cry. Initially tears of sadness, which we turn into tears of joy. And that has to happen. The deeper the emotions, I think the better your chances of being really useful to your clients. The last line there, question 6 in the career construction interview, which I'm going to show now. The question about the 3 earliest recollections. I stand or fall by that. I think we should leave that question in the hands of psychologists. It tends to evoke profound emotions, and I think we need psychologists, or at least have a psychologist at hand if anything happens. So there are the questions. That's the question that I'm referring to, and you know what the CCI entails. So that's the question that I've seen many of you use, the what we could call it an intervention or a question, a couple of questions or an interview, whatever you wish. Big thing here is, and I'm going to say it over and over again, we need to identify people's themes. If you miss out on the themes, I'm going to show you now, you're not doing what you should be doing. And again, this view is in line with the view that we need to convert challenges into opportunities. It's fine to have challenges, if you wish, problems. But it's much finer to turn those challenges or the problems that you identify into possibilities, into hope, into passion, into meaning. And please note, we all have to have something bigger than ourselves, irrespective of what you do. All your clients should be motivated to the extent that they believe there's something bigger than themselves. You want to be successful. Enable your clients to believe in something, even if it's an idea that is bigger than themselves. So, somebody talked about the question mark behind the word sessions. I agree. The latest term that Mark and other colleagues use would be phases. And we stick with 3 phases, but this is a very flexible concept. Certain phases with certain sessions, and this is really, like I said, very flexible. In the first instance, when in the past we tested, these days we elicit stories. The second session, validation. Whatever you do, don't tell. Listen and repeat what your client has given you. And in the third phase, memorize these words forever. I want to see moments of movement. We plan those moments and then we enable our clients to execute those moments. Have I made myself very clear? There has to be moments of forward movement. Like I said, this is very, very flexible. So life design, you're asked the question about life design. Simple. Life design integrates self and career construction. And there are many questions. The other day an interviewer said to Mark, but I still don't understand how this thing works. So you will have questions. Some facets of life design are still unclear to people. Welcome to the club, and you help us move the science forward. But you see the 2 yellow words there. Constructivist, but also constructionist approach paradigms are included. Life design There are the aims. There are the 3 aims of life design. Number 1, key life themes. So over and over and over again. And I hope you really participate in wondering, what are my key life themes? I can tell you what mine are, and I hope I can one day learn what yours are. Secondly, the meaning and the significance of work in your life. And also note, while we're unsure about many things, we know that job opportunities are getting fewer and fewer. What is the meaning of work in your life? And then, of course, we need to identify the key perspectives. And I'm going to repeat myself over and over. Ladies and gentlemen, if we fail to enable people to make meaning, pursue purpose and hope in life, then they leave our consulting rooms feeling dissatisfied. In South Africa, newspapers and TV stations, middle of the year, I can set my watch, they phone me and they say, at TVET colleges, up to 92% of the students are dropping out, changing from one field to another. At university, between 70 and 80%. Why? You be the judge. I have my own ideas. So there is one example in your slides of a life design plan. You can tweak it in any way you fit and adapt it to your context, obviously. So the need for constant paradigmatic change. Paradigms have to change. We cannot function like we functioned 120 years ago. Kuhn and Hacking say paradigms lose their power after 20 years. Sabica says after 50 years. All I can say is we need to renovate and innovate ourselves. Otherwise, we're headed for big trouble. And again, just to summarize, 3 major movements: vocational guidance. Now, the terminology, you're welcome to use any terminology, but by and large, people use the word vocational guidance, that's test and tell, fitting people to environments. The second one there, career development, career education, career guidance, giving psychoeducational but also psychosocial information. And the third one, self and career construction. That's actually psychological by nature. And there you have a slide that explains how these things work. You can read about that in many publications. Ladies and gentlemen, always take a step back. And I'm watching my clock. I see I have approximately 20 minutes left. So always take a step back. Look at the different waves in psychology, in counselling, in career counselling, in the economy, etc. Always try to connect. And there's one example. I'm not going to talk to that slide for too long. Please also note the overlap between the economy, waves in the economy, and career counselling. You have to do that. You have to understand that overlap. Otherwise, you're not doing what you should be doing. You have to understand, and I think our colleagues have individually and collectively beautifully spelled that out this very morning. Vocational guidance, I'm not going to talk too much about that. Please note the idea of life design interventions, psychological, and you've heard the words repeatedly, reflection, reflexivity, etc., etc. And lastly there, drawing on people's personal stories. So in summary, that's what I've given you now. So ladies and gentlemen, the key importance of indigenizing and contextualizing, that's what I'm going to focus on from here on. Why indigenize? Why contextualize? And how can that be done? And I'm just repeating what others have said. Whether we want to know it or not, and I often get fierce criticism. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a big divide. I don't need to explain what I mean by that slide. And there is every chance that Work 4.0, 5.0 will just make this divide much bigger, the so-called Matthew effect. Watch out. The way the world is developing, we're contributing to that divide getting bigger and bigger. Our duty is again, your job and mine, to counteract this phenomenon. We can use our own interventions, questionnaires, or we can draw on the work of other people. It's unavoidable to use stuff developed elsewhere where I come from. And contextualization, indigenization come into play every time you take something. Please don't ever borrow from a textbook and use as is. Please, not talk to that. No. So what does it mean to indigenize? It's simple. Alter career counselling intervention so as to make it fit in with the local culture. Never just take over. Please, never. People dread the unknown. They dread losing power and they dread losing control. And that is why we have to indigenize. Contextualization, always remember the 4 steps. Contextualizing, taking something developed elsewhere and using it in your own context. Like yourselves, Africa is the world of collectivity, Ubuntu, Ujamaa, Esinti. And this kind of comment confirms what I've just said. This is a kind of comment that I receive after every group intervention. Make this available to everybody in Africa. That's collectivism at its best. Decontextualization is what some people do. Taking something from a textbook, using it as is in your country. Please don't do that. Recontextualizing, you see the word, the big word there, situating stuff. In other words, see how it works in your context. And I'll get to that again now. Co-contextualization, ladies and gentlemen, please don't ever say that we're giving a voice to, that we're talking on behalf of other people. I cannot, and you cannot either. Yes, we can add to their voice, but only people can speak on behalf of themselves. I've never spoken on behalf of people, nor have you, nor will or should be ever. We need to draw on the inputs of local people, and like I said there, Anderson's and Galushian's famous quote, adopt a not knowing position. When you get into a context such as this one, you have no idea what's going on. Don't pretend that you don't know. Likewise, you don't understand what's going on there. The very people that sit in front of you might hate you. What the devil are you doing with your white face in my school? How dare you think you can understand? Be prepared for all those battles. And whatever you do, learn, listen. Keep your mouth shut and listen and observe, please. In summary, all these terms comprise a multi-level endeavor. Different policy levels, global, continental, local. So always remember theory, practice, research, policy that's supported of contexts that are married and closely related. Career adaptability, I have to talk about career adaptability. Ladies and gentlemen, individuals develop the competencies of adaptability and identity. That's a key facet of our work. Why? We need to adapt, otherwise we will die as a species. And it's well known, I'm not going to talk about it even, that career adaptability fosters employability. That's a given. It's not something that somebody has to prove or anything. So career adaptability, resources that we draw on to change the context and ourselves. Can I stand still by this at this for a moment? I stand or fall by the following. Change happens within and outside. Don't try to change a person ever, or the context. You have to change both. And I think everybody is aware of that. So the 4 dimensions of career adaptability, the questionnaire, I'm showing you this questionnaire, the South African version. Please, if you haven't, conduct research, adapt it, get in touch with the developers, and use it in your own country. So this question I'm always asked, repeated during the last IAEVG. What do you do in dysfunctional villages? Well, I don't do anything. Ladies and gentlemen, Gideon Arulmanu rightly says more than 2/3 of the world populations follow occupations such as the ones I'm going to show you. And he rightfully asked the question, does career really exist? On our way this morning, I saw construction workers, and I thought to myself, what kind of career is this? I see people cleaning the garbage cans. What kind of career? What do they call themselves? How do they feel about it? How do they experience career? Don't accept anything. Ask questions, please. So Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Africa. This is adaptability in function. There's another example. Isn't this beautiful? This is beautiful. This is adaptability coupled with employability. I don't need to say anything there. There you see the very same thing. This is right where I come from. People with nothing at least stand next to their stores. What I want you to do is what I do. Take a photograph. Put their photograph on your website. Give their cell phone number. Give their permission. Let people join in the fray and help them. Let people purchase stuff from them until they no longer need our intervention. So let's move from theory to practice. And this will be a brief part of the presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, can I put my cards on the table? I'm now going to talk about two instruments that I've developed. One I started developing long before the majority of you were born in 1985, a qualitative questionnaire. Ronald, I think you were also not born by the time I started developing this questionnaire. I'm going to talk to that and the other one. Now my heart breaks. My heart breaks. Maree, I designed the CIP, comprised 56 pages, and then to make absolutely certain that as a member of our psychology council, I cannot be accused of acting unethically. I designed a psychological test. Took me 17 years. And now what do people do? They come to me and say, oh, fantastic. We only need that test. And I feel like going to pieces. They're defying everything that I've ever hoped to achieve. It breaks my heart. I feel like resigning as a human being. So I always use both approaches. Ladies and gentlemen, you're very aware of this. We work from stories to scores, stories and scores. Please note the following. There's a new single-authored scholarly book that I've just written. It will be published early next year. And there I talk to this curious phenomenon. If you elicit the key life themes and you look at the findings of tests, you find a magic way of linking the conscious and the subconscious. And hear me out. You can criticize me if you wish. Once you've linked conscious knowledge with subconscious insight, I've been a clinical hypnotherapist trainer for the Society of Clinical Psychology for decades. And that is where I got this idea from. Once you tap into the subconscious, bring that knowledge to the surface and integrate it with the conscious knowledge, you're in the pound seeds. But you do your research and write your articles, please. And then individual as well as in group. Once more, I have to work in groups. I have no choice. And the majority of the population where I come from, poor people, people with disadvantage, there I have to use both approaches. I love this quote. When you assess people, listen for valid stories, not for facts only, veracity. Not only the facts. So there are the instruments that I'm talking about. There's the first one. It's taken me a lifetime to develop. There it is. I just added that specific facet of the conceptual framework to what Mark has done. And there's a brief summary. Please note, ladies and gentlemen, there's a widespread misconception that career construction does not, rather excludes the use of tests. Well, that's just basic nonsense. Go read up on the conceptual framework. Of course, it still includes testing, if you wish. The Maree Career Matrix, this is the one that I think my sample comprised 50,000 people. It took a lifetime, really. And it took so much effort for people to come up and tell me that they used only this. Please don't only use this questionnaire. It yields lovely information. There's the questionnaire. Let me show you how this one works. It really works very well. There you see the word S. That stands for engineering and the built environment. The L next to it stands for adventure, the outdoors. The N stands for research and the A stands for practical technical. Now it doesn't take Einstein to realize we're talking engineering, practical technical, and a certain cluster of careers, mining engineering, chemical engineering, etc., and even eventually a university post. That's very simple, but it's just half of the story. Don't please use that questionnaire in isolation. So I know that people love structure. And I've devised something to guide practitioners, something that you get for free when people administer these 2 questionnaires. This is, and I'm going to show you very briefly how this works. How do I elicit the stories and integrate the stories with the scores? There are 6 steps, if you wish. You need to get people's identity statement. You need to find a way to let them tell you who they actually are. You need to design, co-construct fields of study. You need to help them craft a mission statement. Who the devil am I? Why do I think this is a fitting career? And a vision statement. People don't realize that our career has to have social meaning, not only personal meaning. And then we need to see moments of action. And lastly, ladies and gentlemen, I forbid everyone that I've ever counseled to tell people that I've administered career counseling until such time as people report back to me after having done job analysis. It's simple, because I genuinely care about people. I want to know whether I've been successful, unsuccessful. How else will we know whether what we're doing makes sense to people? I couldn't care what the book says. What matters to me is whether what I'm doing makes a difference in the lives of real people. So there's something that you get for free from the developer. You can even retype this one if you wish. So there we go. I elicit the identity statement, then the field, the careers, then the personal meaning, and then the vision statement, and then action. And this is the kind of feedback, and I'm just going to show you photographs of a few of my projects now. This works like a charm. It's really difficult to go wrong, because as we teach people in clinical hypnotherapy, I'm structured in my unstructuredness. Now remember that. I'm structured in my unstructuredness. It works like a charm, for me at least. So there's another kind of feedback. Sometimes people might say, I don't like what you do, whatever, it's boring it is, and then you learn from them and you thank them for their comment. Let me share something with you. I'm almost done. A few years ago, Ronald, at the end of one of my emotional social intelligence presentations, 2 black guys came up to me, and the one says, you know, this was the most boring, useless session ever. And I said to him, can I give you a hug? Thank you so much. This is a fantastic learning opportunity. And he put out his hand and he says, you've passed your own EQ test. That's the spirit, ladies and gentlemen. Don't ever feel offended. Learn. That was such a wonderful... And I said to him, can I now you take a photograph? And he says, yes, thank you. I want to see my photograph there on your website. So go look at it, please. So there are some examples. And I'm showing these examples for a reason. At UP, there are flagship project. We have approximately 80,000 students. This is a flagship one. Don't know if you're aware what's happening in the country South Africa. People are desperate to facilitate restitution, social justice, social advocacy. There is no other way. I'm not even going to talk about that. So what we do is we find people from the most poorly equipped, disadvantaged areas, bring them the junior tuckies, bring them to the UP campus. They come there for 5 days, expose them to state-of-the-art stuff, then take them to a lodge, and there you can see them working in groups. And at the end, they go home, and they all have to provide feedback. They all have to. Otherwise, I will never again be involved in the project. This is there you see all the arrows there, a 6, 7, 8, 9 country project. Currently running a year-long life design-based project, the Good Work Foundation. I plead with you, go to my website. Please see what they do. And if you have one to spare, donate it to the Good Work Foundation. They bring people there from across the world. Please. And if you can volunteer, go work there. You'll love it. I think South Africa is still the most beautiful country, second to Korea, of course. So lately with SABDA, we started working in correctional facilities. Ladies and gentlemen, you have to go there. You have to test the waters. And you learn so much. After these sessions, Ronald, I sit there and I cry my heart out. I really do. It breaks my heart. When I stumble upon raped women that have nothing, nowhere to go, it breaks my heart. When I read these stories, woman comes, torn dress, and she holds it like this, trying to hide the shame she's experiencing. Ladies and gentlemen, it breaks my heart. I'm a very sentimental person. That's the kind of thing that truly breaks my heart. Person comes there with blood in the face, and she says, well, I did something to upset my boyfriend. But if I don't go back to him, I have nowhere to go. That is heartbreaking. That will motivate me to go on until I turn 5,000 years, I think. So, ladies and gentlemen, some challenges that I experience. Number one, please note the question about the role models works well. The question about parents, it's something that we can negotiate. The question about the magazines, you're using that question, and be careful. Where I come from, this question doesn't work in disadvantaged contexts. People don't have access to that. Favorite book? It does not always elicit satisfactory answers. Welcome to the club. If you look at the CIP questions, I've added a large number of questions to get the same responses. Be careful. You're not criticizing. You're contributing. You're indigenizing. You're contextualizing while you're implementing. Favorite motto is it works like a charm. The chappie that came to the airport to pick me up, I asked him about his favorite quote, and he gave me one that I've never heard before. Lincoln's quote about, if I have 6 hours in which to do a job, I'll spend 4 hours making sure that my axe is sharp enough. Now that is beautiful. So everything lies in preparation. Don't jump into something, prepare yourself very well. Earliest recollection, don't get me wrong now. Don't use this in group context. It does not work. Okay. There are other questions that you can use in that context. Okay. So using the CCI in group context, it does not work well. You cannot pretend that you're doing what you should be doing. I'm going to be hard on you now. So there's the question that I alluded to. Instead of the 3 earliest recollections, ask that question. Give them 3, 4, 5 minutes. What were the 3 biggest challenges? And the person says, I was never good enough. That person is going to strive forever, achieve 90%, a doctoral degree, and still not feel good enough. So be prepared. Challenges not only relating to physical things, could be highly abstract things that we're talking to. Dealing with power issues, the question you ask, the question, maybe I don't know about you people and the others that use it, the question, how can I be useful to you? In disadvantaged context, people misconstrue the question. I've tweaked it a little to, how can I help, be useful or be valuable, or what are you hoping to gain from this session? Be a little careful there. So advice from now on, never. Don't ever try to give advice, you cannot. Information, yes. So a few take-home points. Number 1, you have to train and train and train. Maree McMahon, when first I met her, said, last night Mark Watson and I worked until, I think you said 2 o'clock. That's practice. She did not become a global star because of nothing, because she worked very hard. Ask my other colleagues, ask the professors here, ask yourselves. Nothing happens overnight. You're going to have to work very, very, very hard. That's non-negotiable. So, Suhi is right. The world is no longer divided into separate entities. We have really become, for the reasons everybody alluded to this morning, a global village. So that quote, it's in your notes. If ever you read that quote from Schaaf again, tweak it a little, I think. Things have changed. And I'm not going to read that quote, it's in your notes. Think carefully. We've moved on. And then in summary, there are the most important principles. You wanted practical guidelines, here they are. Number 1, understand the context. Ladies and gentlemen, listen carefully. Make absolutely certain your axe is sharp enough. Understand the context. Secondly, stories and scores. Subconscious insight with conscious knowledge. It works. It really works. It's your gift to your clients. They love you. They refer every other person they ever meet to you. Facilitate moments of forward movement. Convert challenges into solutions and social contributions. Heal others, and so in doing so, healing yourself, and enable them to thrive and flourish. There are 3 examples. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what happens when you apply the approach. Person had to give her baby away when she was 16, heartbreakingly poor. Now she's a social worker, healing others and healing herself. Person that was bullied at school, watch that DVD of mine on my web, please. And do a little test, see what they're doing today. There you have proof of how the approach works. He's now a human rights lawyer. And this thing, ladies and gentlemen, people always want to know from me, but can I make money? Of course you can make money as well. It's no sin, it's not a crime, it's not anything criminal. So the woman that I met, she gave birth in grade 9. So what is she doing now? She's presenting lectures across the world, making pockets full of money, millions of dollars, turning her pain into a gift for others, but also into a business model. That is very important. Our students don't understand that, yes, you have the right to devise an active business model as well. So, the Good Work Foundation, I rave about these people. There people that have nothing, people that have failed, are brought to the Good Work Foundation. They teach them English, they teach them IT skills, they give them another chance, and I send them all the opportunities on a daily basis to do learnerships, etc. Amazon comes, I'll have you know, Amazon comes, joins the party, give everybody an opportunity to write their life story. Go buy that book, please. And again, turning their pain into hope and into a social contribution and a business model. Now they're making money. They're not doing this for free. In conclusion, the approach works in pre-industrial, post-industrial context. And I'm going to now draw on the language of the current working world. Just watch what the shop windows say. They talk to identity. They talk to people's sense of identity. They talk to people's career life stories. Just watch it. You know, the business people. No wonder they get so rich. They really know how to turn pain into hope. Drawing on your life story. Bolster people's sense of self and career. And I'm almost done. Above all, our approach, in the words of this person, listen carefully. 6 months ago, a person stood in front of me, tears streaming down his eyes. And this is what he said. After having served 11 years of a 25-year murder sentence, today I have hope. And he says, I'll write about, sing, share my story with others to promote the common good and fight evil. Referred to as an offender, and I'm still fighting with them, at best an inmate. And there you see the little group. So, ladies and gentlemen, yes, we heal them. We return to them their sense of dignity. And you know what? It's in moments like this when magic really happens. That's when magic hope happens. And they return our sense of dignity to us as well. So this is just beautiful from the junior tuckies. I got permission. Help people to find their fire, please. And just listen, just watch, just observe. Hopefully, eventually, maybe, we can convert the working world to a world where everybody wears this kind of T-shirt. I have to thank Mark because he's my ultimate role model, the person that I thank most. And I have to thank my mother, the person to whom I dedicated everything that I do. She's in heaven now, but she's always with me and inspiring me. And one of my all-time role models, Mother Teresa. And I cannot agree more. If there are no slums in heaven, I'm going to be back. I will not stay on in heaven. So, ladies and gentlemen, I thank all of you very much for your patience, and I wish you everything of the very best. Thank you for hearing me out. Thank you.